I'm going to give you guys the top 3 builds that I would currently be using in a solo or duo queue. At the moment, we're starting off with a Dragapult. Now, Dragapult, the build would be Muscle Band, Rapid Fire Scarf, and in my opinion, Charging Charm, or you could alternatively use the Scope Lens. Take this Pokemon into the central area, and you want to be using it with an eject button to be getting yourself out of a tricky situation. Now, the moveset that you want to be using is Phantom Force and Shadow Ball. Now, let's have a very quick look at what Phantom Force and Shadow Ball does. If you're unfamiliar with this website, it's called Unite DB. It's a very, very good website. So Shadow Ball, you unlock it at level 7. You hurl like a blob at the enemy and it puts a marker on them, and you're doing additional damage, and you hit them 4 times. It's similar to Blaziken. If you're familiar with the Blaziken, it does additional damage, and then it recovers 15% of your HP at the end of that final proc, and it does some damage. And it's also range, and when you use it, you can dash in a direction, which is very, very awesome. Phantom Force is the broken move. You get this at level 5. Now, it's a buff, right? You go invisible, you have increased movement speed, and you like your stealth, you're invisible, but you put a fear mark on an enemy when you get close to them. At the end of this kind of duration, which could be, I believe it's 6 seconds, it's 6 seconds, okay? Or you can end it early by using one of your skills or autos. Your basic attack speed increased by 100% for the first 3 seconds, okay? If you knock out an enemy, it reduces the cooldown of Phantom Force. And each time you knock out an enemy, it increases his attack stat by 10, and this stacks 10 times. So you could potentially have an extra 100 attack stat with Dragapult by snowballing with this skill. So it's super important that you get off to an early start with Dragapult. And we'll have a look at some of the data. This is Unite API. You can have a look at some of the statistics here on this website. In the description, I believe. Shadow Ball and Phantom Force has got a 53 win rate, and you use this with an eject button, in my opinion, is definitely better, because when you get to high elo lobby, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you can't reposition. So that is the Pokemon right here. It's got a mirror of 54%, so if you have it but your enemy doesn't, your win rate is even better. So that's the sign of a Pokemon that's doing very well, borderline broken. Okay, second Pokemon here would be Lapras. I take this to the top lane and play it as kind of like a brawler / all-arounder sort of Pokemon. Slick Spoon, Specs, and Focus Band, right? So stacking in the top lane. Guys, don't stack in the bottom lane. You're sacrificing just a little bit too much experience. And I would be going Water Pulse and Ice Beam. Okay, I run this Pokemon with an X speed, but you could alternatively use an eject button. Now, if you were going a bit kamikaze and you didn't really feel like using the Focus Band, you could alternatively put on the Choice Specs if you wanted to do that. Or you could put on a Muscle Band is also a decent option there as well. Or if you're feeling extra spicy, you want to debuff the healing, you could go the Curse Incense. So it's pretty flexible there, but I'll be using the Spoon and the Stacking Specs as my non-negotiables. Okay, let's have a look at the data on Lapras. Okay, again, over to Unite API. The data for Lapras, he's doing fairly well, especially this particular moveset, which is Water Pulse and Ice Beam. Does very, very good there, right? You got 53 win rate with the X speed. Alternatively, Eject is your other option, but I think you definitely want that mobility. And this is obviously the moveset that you want to be using, Water Pulse and Ice Beam. It's a very, very strong moveset. If you're unsure with how these moves work, you can read them here. Water Pulse, it's kind of just like you create an AoE, and each time you use it, it stacks. So when you hit an enemy, and then you use the skill again, it stacks, so the number of pulses that you're doing can stack. So the more consecutively you hit the enemy with Water Pulse, the more damage that you're going to be doing. And each time you use Water Pulse, your next auto is an enhanced auto, and the enhanced auto with Lapras heals 2% per tick, and it does 3 ticks of damage. So it's quite a lot of healing you can get with Lapras if you're using this combination properly. The other skill is Ice Beam. It does a phenomenal amount of CC, and it also increases your movement speed when you go over that, not by a whole lot. Yeah, it's a fantastic move. You can put it behind you, you can put it in front of you, you can put it across a lane. It just allows a bit of map control, and it's great CC, and it also has some range, which is very, very valuable. Okay, the last Pokemon I would consider, and I've said this so many times, but it's Hoopa. Okay, Hoopa is fantastic. You're going to struggle if you're not very good at the game using Hoopa, because it is a very complicated Pokemon. but I still do think it's on par with Eldegoss and Blissey and Clefable. But after the nerfs, Hoopa just does something everything else in the game can't do, which is teleport, right? The teleporting is just, it's so good. It's so valuable for your whole team. I think even if you continue to nerf this Pokemon, it's still going to have value based on its functionality rather than its cooldowns and damage. So it's definitely going to be the Hyper Portal, and it's definitely going to be Phantom Force. It's the same build, Muscle Band, Focus Band, EXP Share, definitely with an eject button. And if we have a look at some of the data on this, you're going to see Hoopa's a little skewed here, right? When we have a look at Hoopa, the win rates are all kind of messed up here, right? Because generally you win the game when you're in this form here, and you'll lose the game if you're not. But we don't really care about that. It's got a 51 roughly win percent, which is very, very good for support, right? It's just a very, very good Pokemon to use in general. Now, consider the emblems. Emblems, I'm not really going to be fussed on too much. Just put on damage emblems, guys. It's not really a big deal. Hoopa, I'd probably putting on HP. Lapras, I'd be putting on HP. Dragapult, maybe attack speed and attack. Again, emblems, just use your common sense with emblems, guys. They're not going to change and revolutionize the Pokemon completely, okay? They just help enhance things just a little bit, okay? Just a smidge. Now, if we look at the stats, right, just have a look at the stats of some of these Pokemon. So if I have a look at Lapras, actually, hang on. No, I'm doing this wrong. If you go back to the Pokemon, so Dragapult, and I can click on stats here. This is the last thing here. Dragapult goes from 0% to 5% lifesteal at level 5, gets another little jump at level 9, and then another jump at 13. And have a look at the attack speed jump from 12 to 13 there as well. So getting level 13, and then even going to level 14 is a huge jump. You get an extra 10% attack speed, right? So those levels from 12, 13, 14, 15 with Dragapult are absolutely huge. The crit rate goes from 15% to 30% from level 8 to level 9, which is very, very valuable as well, right? So just keep those power spikes in mind when you're using these Pokemon. Lapras, no life steal there. I get some natural cooldown reduction. Lapras is just strong from start to finish across the board. You're going to get, you know, a nice level up naturally with those skills that go plus and minus. And the last one is our favorite Pokemon, Hoopa. Hoopa is over here. If we have a look at the stats, Hoopa gets a cooldown reduction at level 5 and then at level 10 and nothing more after that. No lifesteal, no crit, nothing crazy with the attack speed. Hoopa is just a strong Pokemon all around. When you get to the Rayquaza, you should probably be level 11 or level 12 if you've used Hoopa properly. You want to be level 13 with your Lapras, and you probably want to be level 14 if you're doing well with Dragapult. Now let's jump through 3 individual games, and we're going to talk over how you want to use these Pokemon. 2 minutes on each one. Let's go. So firstly with Dragapult, you take it into the jungle, you do your jungle clear, and you gank either your top or your bottom lane. Now you make sure you're being smart with your engages with the Phantom Force, because remember when you pick up the KOs, you get the move reset. So I can pick up the 2 KOs, I get the move reset on Phantom Force, and I can put even more pressure on the Comfey. We force him back, we're not looking to kill him, we're looking to score and take all of the farm, because at this point we're looking for the experience lead. Dragapult is a very snowbally Pokemon, so you need to make sure you're playing the Pokemon like this. If you get a lead, you crush your lead. You want to get as much advantage in the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the game as possible. So that's exactly what I do. I look to invade the enemy jungle. I get quite fortunate here, not because I took the buff, but because we've actually got that Dragapult use Phantom Force to try and secure the farm. Didn't expect us coming in, so he was in a very compromising position. And then we follow up, we actually get another kill on their Gardevoir there, which is very, very good. So we're kind of cleaning up in their jungle. We're getting those kill resets. And because I was in a tricky situation there, you can see I used the Shadow Ball and the Eject to get myself out of that. Level 8, by the 8-minute mark, that's exactly how you want to be doing it with this character. Now, your engagements with Phantom Force have to be very sneaky. You need to make sure that you're trying to go in from the side, not head on. That's very, very important. And you're looking for your team to give you vision. You're getting the move resets with that Phantom Force, and you're cleaning up the enemy. You're not overextending. You're not trying to force a fight way back into their base. You kill them when they're in a difficult position. And then we get to the Rayquaza fight. You want to make sure that you're floating, you're keeping the pressure on them, but you're not getting picked off. You got to make sure if you're going into the enemy jungle, you've got Phantom Force on cooldown and you're staying well away from the Pokemon that can do a lot of CC to you and get you caught in a very tough position. In this particular case, we've gone into their jungle, caught them when they're getting over the jump pad, and there's 2 dead, 3 dead. We get the kill on the Dragapult, which is 4 dead, and unfortunately the Charizard actually takes a pentakill away from me, but that's okay, because in the final point with Dragapult here, he's got insanely quick rip, so you can go through an objective very, very quickly. Guys, that's Dragapult. You need to snowball with it, and of course, that's a good game. Now, let's talk about Lapras. Lapras is, you take him to the top lane and you want to make sure that you're getting your stacks in. But the thing with Lapras is that he can put a lot of pressure and stop scoring from the enemy. So remember, your priority is farm. Farm first, farm, farm, farm. You want to secure the farm of the enemy, right? Because this Machop is overextended a lot, and I'm having a bit of a difficult time killing him there, but we eventually get the kill, and then we look for score, right? So it's farm, score, fight. In that situation, for me, it was fighting before scoring because it was easier to get the kill on the Machop because he played poorly and put himself in a tricky situation. Because we get the kill, we actually managed to get 3 stacks early and get to level 5, which is very, very good. One thing you can do if you've got your X speed on cooldown, after you get that score, if you're at about half health, you can X speed past their base, get their citrus berry, and then run away. Because you're a tank, you're going to be very, very thick. You rotate down early, so you can make sure that your team gets its first objective. That's very, very important as a top laner, and Lapras will do this well. You're able to rip through the objective fairly easily with Lapras because the Water Pulse and the Ice Beam do quite a lot of damage. You could potentially zone if no one else on your team is zoning, but our team just destroy their goal zones. It's a fairly free objective because we rotate it as our top laners. One thing with the Unite move, you use this to keep the momentum of the game up. You can see the enemy team's pushing, and the amount of CC it provides when you crash in with a big surf. I get all 3 of them there, and then we can follow up. The Ice Beam gives a lot of CC, and the Water Pulse with the additional healing from the basics, it's very, very valuable. So that's one thing. Use the Unite move to keep the momentum of the game going, whether you're pushing goal zones, whether you're pushing kills. And the last thing is, make sure you don't do what I'm doing here, which is, I'm actually playing this Unite move pretty well. I'm looking to get their Inteleon because he's a lot of backline damage. Unfortunately, I should have realized that 3 people on my team died and played a lot more passively here, because I do my job as a Lapras. I take out their backline damage, but unfortunately, their entire team is still there, and I've got the mean look Umbreon who catches me, and I unfortunately go down there and our team surrenders. So that's how we lost the game. I should have played a little more passively when I saw my team get completely cleaned up. And the last one here, this is not going to be 2 minutes because it's Hoopa, my absolute favorite Pokemon. I'm going to go through the whole commentary here with Hoopa because you can't do this in 2 minutes, guys. It's too complicated. The other 2 Pokemon are very straightforward to use, but Hoopa is a very, very tricky Pokemon. So I picked Astonish here first. That's very dumb. I should have picked Confusion because it does a lot more damage. Astonish is a stunning skill and it helps your team get out of a bad position, but it also helps secure farm because you want to Astonish and then follow up with a boosted B press to help get the farm to you. Right, you can see I go in there, I'm trying to stun the enemy so me and the Mewtwo can get the secure on the farm, but they've done pretty well there. I can use my passive ability there to give my Mewtwo a berry. Right, this is all very quick and sharp thinking early on in the game. Right, I'm trying to make sure that I've got the stuns ready. I secured that with Confusion, which was fortunately a little lucky, and I used the Astonish to get my Mewtwo out of a tricky situation here. Right, we're in a tough situation. I get a huge Astonish on 2 of the enemies there who are low. We managed to pick up 1 KO there, 2 KOs, and we're putting a lot of pressure on their jungler. He goes back, guys. Remember, the top priority is farm. You must be looking for farm. You can't get over greedy with kills. Right, so pretty fortunate there. In my opinion, we've definitely won the gank. And I'm looking to stun the enemy out, right? As the Hoopa, I'm stunning the enemy out of the secure so my team can get the secure. That's super, super important to understand. So there's a lot going on in the first kind of minute and a half of the game there, but guys, you got to get this small stuff right. Astonish to help stun your team. You're not using it to get secure on farm. You're using it to help your team get out of situations and follow up. Now, the hyperspace hole has got a cooldown increase. It's still a very, very good skill, and you need to be using this skill to anticipate when your team is about to die, and bonus marks if you can put this in the bush. You can see right there I use the Astonish and followed up with a B press to secure the farm. This is what you want to do. Now, it's not necessarily always a good idea to just try and kill the enemy because you get quite a lot of experience when you are scoring, right? An 18 score gives me about 180 experience, which is quite a lot, right? That's equal to one of the APOMs, right? Now you can see I've used the portal in the bush to help my Mewtwo get away because the enemy team can't see the portal in the bush, but my team can, right? We get the the Dragonair is in a very tricky situation there, and I'm helping my team get a little bit of score in here. We get the 30, the Mewtwo opts to not break with the small amount. He tries to get an extra 5 score in, and this is the value of the Hoopa here, right? It's 7 minutes 20. We've broken their tier 1. We probably could have avoided breaking that tier 1 because we're giving them quite a bit of experience there. So we're just waiting for the bees to spawn here, and then we're going to use our Hyperspace Hoardle to go down and try and get in a very good position for this first objective. So I use that Phantom Force, and then I put this portal on the base. I'm letting my Mewtwo know, hey, by the way, portal, let's go down to this lane here. Now, our team's a very good position. We've got all 5 people bottom, minus our Serena, but our Venusaur's putting a lot of pressure on. I get caught in the gravity there, which is a very, very bad position for me. So I put the portal in the bush, and you can see, because it's circular, you don't necessarily have to be in the bush, right? So we get there. I'm just looking to put little scores in. That's a little bit of experience there, and potentially we're probably looking to break to help our Mewtwo. I put the portal there to help him get away, but he's not necessarily interested, which is totally okay. And now we're in a position to rip, right? With Hoopa, you've got to be with your team, right? There's no point just ripping objective by yourself. You've got to make sure if they're dead, you're not going to be able to do that objective, right? And then one thing you can do is you've got these Hyperspace Hoardles to go from top to bottom lane. That's the biggest value that you get right there. Now, when you're using Hoopa, you want to make sure that you're near your goal zones. You've got to make sure you're near the goal zones, because that way you can go from top lane to bottom lane relatively quickly. Okay, that's the big value of the Hyperspace Portal there. Now, your goal for the next objective, you can see I'm level 7 here. My goal is to make sure I'm getting level 9. Right, I can see that my Serena's put himself in a tricky situation. We used the portal to get him out. I'm actually surprised he got out alive there. And I used my Phantom Force there to shove the enemy away from the Mewtwo Y. Right when I get the Hyperspace Portal on cooldown, I put it right on top of the team fight because I anticipate they're going to be fairly low, and they all actually managed to get away. We get 3 people out, but the Dragonite's putting a lot of pressure on me. I have to eject to get out of that, and then I'm looking to put another portal in the bush. You can support from the back line with Hoopa, which is very, very nice when you're on low HP, and you can dance around with that Phantom Force. So you got to make sure, guys, you're with your team and you're near your goal zones. Your goal is level 9. That is absolutely the goal, and there's no way you're going to be doing this just by farming alone with that EXP sheet. You've got to make sure that you're with your team. So you can see here it's about level 8 3/4. I'll probably tick over to it passively. This is probably a little bit of a mistake from me here. I'm walking away from the goal zone, and you can see the enemy team scores. That's a bad play from me, right? I shouldn't have stood away from that goal zone. I got a little bit greedy to try and get some extra farm. I was going to tick over anyway, so it's honestly not a very, very good play from me there at all. Right, you can use a Phantom Force, right, to stun, to help support, and I'm just putting that portal there to help my Mewtwo get the reset, right? So you've got to use your Hyperspace Hole in anticipation that your team's going to need the healing, right? In anticipation. Now, right here, this is a free objective because we've got the Hoopa Unite. We've got a vision on them in the top lane. I rip my Hoopa Unite, and pretty much all we're looking to do, use Psybeam to do some damage onto the objective, and your other skill, which is the Fury one, use that to stun incoming enemies. You can see I look to zone here, and I look to put a bit of stun, right? It does quite a lot of stunning. It's very, very valuable, so make sure you understand when you go into that Unite move mode, the Fury skill, which is the R button, will do a lot of CC, and your other skill, which is Psybeam, does quite a lot of damage, right? You can see the enemies pushing the Regieleki, and here I am just looking to support the team, not put myself in a compromising position. I use that Hyperspace Fury because the Hyperspace Hole, because I'm anticipating Mewtwo takes a bit of damage here, and I'm looking to shove the enemy, put them out of position with that Phantom Force, right? And at this point, their team's probably not going to be able to follow up and get that hole in. You can see I put the hole down and some extra damage to try and bait some skills out of them, knowing that I'd be able to get away safely into that hole, right? You can see a lot of the time I'm putting the hole forward aggressively, anticipating that I'm going to need the healing, but it also helps our team push forward. If I keep putting the Hyperspace Hole behind me, that means that our team is constantly going to be on the back foot rather than pushing them towards their side of the map, and we want to have as much map control as possible because that means we get more farm and all that good stuff there, right? Honestly, I just put a portal down there to try and save the Mewtwo. He's fortunately, he actually hasn't got in there. I got in with the Phantom Force to try and help him out. There's no way I was going back there because that is a death wish, and he actually somehow managed to get out, which is really, really good of him, right? He actually didn't die, which is pretty crazy, right? So, Rayquaza. How do you know if you've done the right thing over that Rayquaza fight? You need to be level 11 or level 12. That's how you know you've got it right, and you must have your Unite move. Now, generally, you're going to be using your Unite move 2 times in the game with Hoopa. The first time is at the second objective down the bottom lane, then this is just to keep it as brained as possible. That's not what you should always do. And the second time is at the Rayquaza fight, and this is a huge Unite move. It's very pivotal, and it can swing the fight a lot, right? You can see I'm using these portals, anticipating a big team fight. Guys, you've got to think 3 seconds in advance. They're not an instant portal. You've got to be anticipating whether your team needs them or not. 2 minutes 10 here. We're not looking for this objective. I'm putting the portal down to help my team get their health back so we can go into this Rayquaza fight full HP. A lot of good communication from our team there, calling a retreat. And Mamoswine putting himself in a tricky situation, but that's what you should be doing as a tank because I can just send him back fairly easily. Now, with the Unite move with Hoop, you've got to make sure you pull it at the right time. It's like pulling the trigger, okay? I can see their team is very caught up in that choke. I use my CC skill, my crowd control skill. We get a huge CC on their Dragonite there, and then we're pushing their team up a lot of damage. Our team's able to start this objective, and Mewtwo's looking to do a lot of ripping on this objective. All I'm looking to do here, I'm scouting for any potential top lane there, right? The Sylveon comes down, he's quite low on HP, he'll quickly die there. Their team's having to run in and make sure that we don't just rip this straight away, so they're in a very, very tricky position here, and I'm putting these Phantom Forces out to try and CC. I'm telling my Mamoswine, hey, in bush, and we're just looking to make sure that we can have the control of the map there, right? I definitely wasn't going back through there, but our Mamoswine did to continue to CC, and because we've got the numbers advantage and we're just blocking their pathway in, we're able to get that secure on the Rayquaza. We're still behind, but we got quite a lot of score in there. Guys, if you've played Hoopa right, you should be getting a lot of assists, and currently at the moment in the game, it is bugged. You're going to see the healing numbers are very, very low on Hoopa because I'm not sure why, but it's actually currently bugged. So those are 3 builds. Most time spent on Hoopa there because Hoopa is definitely the most complicated Pokemon to use. Guys, you can see me in the in-game mic, hyping everyone up. If you got some value out of this video, drop a like and let me know.